Hello, hello, my fellow creatives. Welcome, welcome. I am Imani the Writer, and this is the Healing Creative Podcast, where I, a Black girl creative, take you along my healing journey. Feel free to join me. So today's topic is creative blockages, where they come from, why they happen, and how we can push past them. I recently made a podcast episode on creative paralysis. If you haven't checked that one out yet, I think that will be very, very helpful. Both of these episodes together. So when I wrote the script and was talking about creative paralysis in the last podcast episode, that paralysis feeling, it's giving like you feel anxious about creating, and that's why you're not doing it. There's a fear there. There's this panicky feeling that's preventing you from creating the things you deeply want to create. Whereas creative blockages is you're not really necessarily feeling any anxious feelings. It's just not there. Like the inspiration is just not there. The ideas are not coming. They're not free flowing. Something is going on. And it's not necessarily like, I'm just kind of, does that make sense? Is that kind of a good way to I feel like it's the primary difference when I think about the difference in my own creative journey versus when I'm feeling a creative block versus a creative paralysis feeling. It's the anxiousness that is literally causing me to freeze that makes me feel like, oh, this is creative paralysis. Whereas a block is just like, I don't know what to do next, or I feel off, or I'm just not this is just not a free flowing session right now. You know what I mean? This is not a free flowing creative session. And I want to push past that. So I'm glad I took a moment to kind of just like explain the difference. And I decided to talk about this specific topic, both topics lately, because I'm noticing the way they both creative blockages and creative paralysis have been manifesting recently in my creative life. And randomly one day, I decided to use some of my go-to coping tools for other things, for like personal things, like just how to navigate feeling like a lack of confidence, or when insecurities bubble up, or when things happen that upset me, unpacking that and getting to the root of why, just understanding my own feelings, like empathy letters and all that types of stuff, like all the different coping tools I use for like my emotional and mental health. But instead, I kind of just tried it out to help me work through this creative block that I was having at the time. And it worked so perfectly that I had to share it. So I'm super excited to talk with you guys about it. But first, creative updates. I have been challenging myself to set aside 1 hour a day on the days that I work from home, just like an hour before the workday starts, to have a creative session, as well as to have a 3-hour creative session every Saturday. This is brand new. I just started it today. I just had my first 1-hour session this morning before getting through the workday and everything. I made sure to set aside an hour, like from 7 to 8 o'clock before having to get ready for work, just for my creative stuff. And the reason why I don't do it on the days I have to go into the office is because my commute's really long. So that's why I figured the days that I'm working from home and Saturday will get like a big chunk, the biggest creative session that I'll have throughout the week. It's brand new, but I'm enjoying it so far. I knew it's something that I needed to do. I needed to figure out a way to just have more creativity throughout my week. I'm usually good about doing the one big creative session a week, but I need to have something more throughout the week as well. So I'm giving this a try. It worked out really well today. I worked on music. There was a song, like a tune I've just been creating and crafting in my head. And today, for the first time, I actually wrote down the lyrics. And I told you guys, I don't know if it was last episode, that I bought this kalimba, this thumb piano, and I was writing the song with the thumb piano. And I actually wrote down the notes and everything. So everything is written down. All that's left is for me to get started with producing the song. And I am going to be doing that alongside this course that I'm taking on Udemy. I can link it in the description box for you guys if you're interested. It's like mixing and mastering the fast and easy way, something like that. I did start just like the introductory portion. I made my shopping list of all the different gear that I need to get. Luckily, I had a lot of the things that were brought up in that course that you probably need already on hand for other things. So it's a pretty small list. I think it's just like 150 or 160 bucks that I really had to spend, which isn't that bad for additional gear. And it's just like small things here and there, like a pop filter and some studio headphones and a keyboard, like the musical keyboard that you can plug into your computer, and an instrument mic, like the kind that you can just stick onto an instrument and it'll pick it up. And that will connect to your amplifier or your audio interface, that kind of stuff. So I'm super excited. The course said to have a song that you're going to be working on while you're taking the course. So you'll learn the material and immediately apply the material to the song that you're working on. I think this is the song. This is the song that I'm going to work with that course on. So I'm super excited for that. And I'll update you guys as I go. It's been a really great experience. So what about you guys? Tell me what you've been working on. Let me know your creative updates, any creative hobbies that you're interested in exploring. Even if you don't have an update, just tell us what you're interested in trying out. Tell us what you're interested in doing next. I'm super excited to hear from you guys. But on to the topic of this episode, creative blockages. What creative blockages feel like for me? Like I said, the difference with creative paralysis is this panicky feeling, but with a creative block or creative blockages, I just feel like I hit a wall. Like I'm in a flow state and I just smack hit the wall and I can't figure out what to do next. Sometimes I'm just in my own head too much to create. Sometimes it is out of fear too. Like sometimes a creative blockage can be with anxious and fear-based feelings, but paralysis I feel is very, very severe versus a block is just like, okay, some quick reframing or something, it's something minor, something a little smaller. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm scared that I won't like what I make. And I have ideas in my mind about what that would mean to me. Like, oh, does that make me a bad artist? Or is the work terrible? Or is a stupid idea or stupid things like that? You know what I mean? Or sometimes I am scared that I'm going to love creating so much that I won't stop. Because I've had flow states like that where I just create and create and create for like 15 hours straight, like back when I wasn't working. And then I'll be depressed because at some point I have to stop creating. I have no choice but to stop creating and go back to the real world with real world problems. And that would depress me. So sometimes that makes me like, let me not create. Doesn't that sound stupid? As if I can't go back, as if I can't come back to this creative world anytime that I want to. But sometimes that's just where my mind goes like, oh, if you start, you're not going to want to stop. And then when you're going to have to stop, and that's going to depress you, so you might as well not start. Like, doesn't that sound ridiculous? That sounds ridiculous. But sometimes my brain goes there. And sometimes I have creative blockages where I'm really depressed or upset with something going on in my own life that I just don't even necessarily want to create. Like I don't have the energy to create or to do anything but lie in bed and doom scroll all day. You know what I mean? So if you've experienced any of these kinds of feelings, which I'm sure you have, at least a few at some point, if you are a creative, it's kind of part of the journey. I want you to know that you are definitely not alone. I feel like when we're in that headspace, we start to doubt ourselves and invalidate our talent very quickly. Like, oh, if I was a good artist, if I was a good musician, if I was a good writer, if I was a good insert artisan craft here, it would come easy to me and I wouldn't have a creative block. You know what I mean? We tend to think that, but that's just not true. That's just not true. This is normal. I want you to know that this is so, so normal. So many other people know what this is like. If you're one of those people, let us know down below in the comments. Yeah, creative blockages are so normal. And I want to take some pressure off of you. Let's just take some pressure off of ourselves to feel like being a good artist or being a good creative means ... Like, I feel like we have these definitions in our minds for what being a good creative means. And when we don't live up to that standard, we start to doubt whether or not we're actually good creatives. But let's just take that definition away altogether. It's not even about being a good or bad creator. It's about creating because it brings us joy to do so. And whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? However people feel about it is however people feel about it. But your growth comes from you enjoying the practice and building upon the skill with more practice simply because you enjoy the practice. You know what I mean? You don't have to pressure yourself to perform. You don't have to pressure yourself to chug and chug and chug out material all the time so that you can feel like you are a good artist. You are a good artist. You are a good creative. You are in a valid place. Wherever you are in your creative journey is a perfectly valid place to be. Wherever you are in your creative journey is a perfectly valid place to be. I see you, I hear you, I feel you, and I've got your back. So let's talk through this. Let's talk this out. You know what I mean? How do we break through these creative blockages? This is what I mean when I said I started kind of looking at some of the coping tools that I use just for my emotional well-being and tried to apply it here as well. The first thing that I wrote down when I was thinking about this in my journaling, don't panic, breathe into it. Sometimes a 2-minute to 5-minute session where you're just like doing some breath work and some meditation will be enough to calm me down and realize that it's okay. Having a creative blockage or having a creative block is perfectly normal. And it's nothing worth going out of my way to stress myself out about. I can just breathe into the moment and be like, okay, this is what's happening, and that's okay. Another thing that's very, very important to do is to determine the root of the blockage. There are a couple of steps that we need to take to do that. The first step is the blockage mental or emotional? Let's try it out right now, okay? You told me, oh, I'm having a creative block or I'm just having a writer's block. I can't create anything. And I ask you why. Write down for me right now what you think the reason is. Take a second to do that, right? And now let's see, based on what you wrote down, if the blockage is mental or emotional. We know that the blockage is mental if the problem is that you don't know something. So if you wrote down, I don't know blank or something similar, that's a pretty good sign that the blockage is mental. Now, if the thought is, I don't know how to do XYZ, I don't know how to blank, then the answer to pushing through that mental blockage is education. Learn more about how other creatives have navigated that specific problem and take notes to see and experiment to see if that would work for you. Take note of what you liked or disliked about their approach. And this will help you find the specific approach that works best for you. For example, I don't know how to add this specific sound effect to my song. I hear it in my mind and I really want to add it to the song somehow, but I'm stuck. I don't know how to do it. The answer is education. The answer is doing more research, Googling courses, books, YouTube videos, just doing that initial search. How do I add this effect to my song? That's an example of a mental creative blockage that usually requires education in order to push past. The next one, if the thought is, I don't know what blank, the answer is typically mindfulness. So before, the thought is, I don't know how. This is, I don't know what. Let me give an example. Let's say that I'm working on my novel, and this is something that actually happened, and this is how I kind of figured it out and use a mindfulness practice to help me out in the process. My creative blockage is I was working on a scene in my novel, and I didn't know what my character should do next in this scene. I didn't know what would feel most authentic. I just didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? That's the key difference. There's a difference between I don't know how to do something versus I don't know what to do. And more importantly, this is about what my character should do next. The answer here is mindfulness. So what I ended up doing is heard of the 5 senses exercise, where you just take a minute to breathe, think about what you see, think about what you hear, think about what you smell, think about what you taste, think about what you feel to kind of ground you in the present moment. I decided to try something I call the sixth sense exercise, which is something very similar. And I would put 2 to 5 minutes on the timer to close my eyes and just slow the moment down that I'm writing in my scene, to slow the moment down and think about, what does my character see? 2 to 3 minutes reflecting on that, breathing into the moment, having the notebook next to me in case I want to jot something down. Next, do it again. What does my character hear? What does my character smell? What does my character taste? What does my character feel? And then the sense one was, what can my character sense that's outside of themselves? What do they sense around them? It's giving more intuition. You know what I mean? What do they sense? Like, if there's an aura coming off of other characters, what is that? How does my character experience that? You know what I mean? Applying that mindfulness to my creative process was really, really helpful for me, because when I put myself fully in my character's shoes, first and foremost, I can add the things that I wrote down about what they're sensing into my novel. Like, that's actual material that I can add, that's sensory descriptions. But now that I'm really in the mindset of my character and I'm sensing what they're sensing, I have a better idea of what they would do next based off of their sensory experiences. And it gives me that mindfulness, just and being in the moment with my character kind of gave me the answers I needed to move forward. I'll give you another example with a song. I don't know what to do with this next verse. I can also try the sixth sense exercise with myself when writing a song. When I think about this song, when I think about the trajectory of where the song is going, when I try to make a music video happen in my own mind, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? Jot those things down. To do the same 2 to 5 minute reflection on each sense. When I think about the song, what do I see in my mind's eye? What am I hearing? Think about that, write those things down. And those sensory details can also be part of the song. It could be lyrics to the song. It could be layers to add to the song. When you're in the music production process, you can add sound effects for the things that you said that you were hearing. You can say things or add ad libs to the song in ways that kind of reflect some of the things that you said you were, in a way that reflects some of the things you said you were smelling or tasting, that kind of give off that gritty feeling. Gritty. Like, for example, I don't know why I said gritty, but let's say I smelled moldy bread on the side of the road or something. That's so gross. I can look for sound effects that kind of give me a very gritty sound, a gritty, uncomfortable sound that just kind of reflects the discomfort that it would immediately hit your nostrils when you smell that moldy smell. It's just like, give me a sound that feels that same level of discomfort, that feels that same level of like, ugh, you know what I mean? That gives me grits, give me discomfort, something like that. Sometimes taking a moment to reflect on what you would be seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, and tasting in the moment that your art is taking up space in will give you the inspiration that you need to continue pushing forward. So those are 2 examples. If you're having a mental blockage where you feel like you don't know how to do something, it's education. And if you don't know what to do next with something, the answer is usually mindfulness. Just to sum that up, okay? Let's move on. Now, remember from before when you wrote down that quick sentence where you said, let's pretend you said, oh, Imani, I'm having a bit of writer's block. I'm having an arter's block. I'm having a creative blockage. And I asked you why, and you wrote down your reason. Let's say instead of writing, I don't know, you wrote down, I don't feel blank. That's how you know that it's an emotional blockage instead of a mental blockage. So let's talk about ways to kind of work through those emotional blockages. If the thought is something similar to, I don't really feel up to it, or I don't feel inspired, the answer is small commitments. Not feeling inspired is common and it's valid, but sometimes it could simply be a small little level of procrastination. So let's try to push through that initial level of procrastination. Specifically when you're feeling like, I just don't feel up to it, that could be a little procrastination. You know what I mean? So let's try and push past and push through that initial procrastination by making a small commitment. Commit to just 5 minutes, doing the thing for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and see how you feel afterwards. If you're still not feeling it, you can stop and come back to it later. But make sure you have a scheduled time for when you're going to come back to it, okay? But maybe after 5 or 10 minutes of doing the thing, you found your stride. And you may feel like continuing to do so. So see what the vibe is. See what it is. You know what I'm saying? If you're feeling just not up to it or you're just not feeling inspired, just try for 10 minutes. See how you feel afterwards. Now, if the thought is that I don't feel good enough or I don't feel confident, something similar to that, the answer to that is empathy. Showing yourself empathy and self-compassion. How do we do that? First, you need to take some of the pressure off. Take some pressure off of yourself. You're worried about whether or not you're good enough. Right now, you don't have to be good enough for a damn thing, okay? You don't have to be good enough for anyone. Don't push yourself too hard to perform. Don't push yourself to yield certain results. Do it simply for the joy of doing it. Your art will do exactly what it is meant to do when it is meant to do so. Don't worry. Don't worry. You don't have to be good enough right now, okay? That's a good affirmation. If you're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm good enough, bitch, I don't have to be good enough right now. Right now, I just have to do the thing. I'll worry about being good enough another time, if I decide to worry about it at all. The next part is to use empathy letters and affirmations to remind yourself of all of the reasons you are good enough to create the art that you create. Sometimes we just need reminders too. Sometimes you just need to remember all of the things that you've made in the past. Sometimes you need to remember the joy you had when creating. And that joy sometimes is more than enough reason to just keep creating. And if there are things that you're not very proficient at yet, you can always learn and you have all the time in the world to do so. All the time in the world to do so. If you struggle with self-compassion, if you struggle with showing yourself empathy, I've mentioned my empathy letter worksheet a couple times throughout the podcast, and I think this would be really, really helpful for you. So when you are trying to write affirmations that actually work for you, as opposed to just getting affirmations off of the internet, there is a way to craft the affirmations and the exact message that you need to hear in order to kind of push through that negative feeling. And the empathy letter will probably be a better approach for you to be able to do that. So I walk you through, with my empathy letter worksheet, I walk you through how to write an empathy letter. An empathy letter is basically kind of like a love letter, but the point is to show yourself empathy when you are coming face to face with a specific insecurity or a specific problem. It has the empathy letter formula, and you can apply that formula a million times over, again and again and again. Whenever you just have uncomfy feelings about anything, this is a really, really great way to address that, to show yourself the love and the empathy and the compassion that you deeply need in that moment. And you can always keep your letters close by. I like to record mine on my phone so that I always have them, so that the next time I encounter that negative feeling or that insecurity, I can just pull out my phone, play the recording of me and hearing myself in my own voice, reading my own empathy letter. And oftentimes I immediately start to feel better. So if you're interested, check it out. Links are in the description box below. I really, really hope that this episode was helpful for you guys. It's a little short, but I would say that it's a pretty solid continuation of our discussion on creative paralysis. And I had a great time working on it. I've already found so much use in utilizing these tips and these techniques whenever I have creative blockages. And I would love to invite you guys to also share what works for you. If there's something that helps you push past a creative block, please, please, please share it in the comment section below. Share it so that other creatives have access to that knowledge, so that we can all work towards making all of our creative dreams come true. Thanks for chilling with me. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you feel called to do so. And wherever you are in the world, I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye.